Hello everyone. So the topic of discussion for today is Copilot Studio and how does it help to enhance the developer productivity and creativity. So in today's world, as we see that the development processes are becoming more and more complex, it's essential that we have more AI tools so as to enhance the productivity and creativity of a developer. As the artificial intelligence is helping us to uh, cut down on the redundant task and focus more on the creativity part so as to deliver the best products in the industry. So let's go through the agenda for today. First, I will be giving an introduction about Copilot Studio. Then we will be discussing why do we are we using exactly Copilot Studio. Then moving on to the key features. Then we will be discussing how is it essential in enhancing the productivity of a developer and its corresponding impact on code quality. Then we will discuss how is it essential in collaboration and knowledge sharing, like multiple teams collaborating together. As we all know, that development is a team-based work. So how does it help in collaboration and all? Then working upon some use cases in real-world development. How does it help in the real-world development? Then I will give a comparison of Copilot Studio versus the traditional IDEs, what all we are using nowadays, and how is Copilot Studio better than these IDEs or a more advanced version. Then we will be discussing the future scope of Copilot Studio as to what features can we expect from Copilot Studio in the future, depending upon the needs of the industry. And then our conclusion to conclude the entire presentation. So let's begin with the introduction. So the main question, what is Copilot Studio? Copilot Studio is a sophisticated AI design tool to assist the developers in writing code more efficiently. So nowadays, what is in early times, what happens? The entire process from designing to development, the entire process was done manually, and the quality of code to maintain a high quality of code, a lot of time was taken. But since we are using now AI-driven tool, it is assisting developers to save on a lot of time by helping them to cut them redundant tasks. So you can imagine it as a coding assistant that is always on hand to develop you and navigate the challenges and streamline your workflow. So entire workflow of developing a product from scratch has been streamlined properly, and at every stage you can get some assistance to make your task faster and also make the output of a task more efficient. Then Copilot Studio is a tool which has been evolved from GitHub Copilot. Like this is the next generation GitHub Copilot. It takes on the legacy features of GitHub Copilot and adds more capabilities to it. Like GitHub Copilot was related to, you can say, improvising code features or suggesting code completions while you are writing code. But Copilot Studio is an entire full-fledged tool which is an advanced version of GitHub Copilot. Then it is designed to simplify coding and boosting the productivity. So as we discussed earlier, it helps to enhance the simplify the coding process, like as I said, to by cutting down the redundant task and boost the productivity. As now you can focus on more creative tasks and the tasks that actually matter, that actually require human thinking, and to make the process more efficient. So yeah, it boosts developer efficiency as discussed earlier, and it supports multiple programming languages. So Copilot Studio is not limited to a particular programming language, as nowadays a lot of programming languages are being used for different developmental purposes. You can use Copilot Studio with JavaScript, Python, Ruby on Rails, or any other programming language which is being used for development. So this is a very versatile tool which can work across different programming languages, and also it is scalable across projects, since whether you are using Copilot Studio for your personal projects, for your, like academic projects and all, or are you using Copilot Studio for your entire enterprise, like building the code base for a large organization. Copilot Studio has been Copilot Studio has been scalable across all the no, sorry, across all the projects, no matter the length or the variation or the versatility of the code base. So that is not an issue with Copilot Studio. So this was a brief introduction about Copilot Studio. Next, let's move. Why do developers need Copilot Studio? Discussing some common challenges that a developer face. The first one of them is managing complex projects. So whenever you work for a big enterprise, you handle large code bases. These code bases can be large, as huge as containing thousands of different files containing 10,000 plus of lines of code, and containing various linkages, API calls, etc. So to basically handle such a complexity of a project becomes a challenge for developers. And yeah, large code bases is an issue. And then as the size of the code base increases, debugging and testing also becomes a challenge. Like, just imagine that you are basically building a project for your personal purposes. Debugging it is an easier issue because the lines of code and the number of features that you are using, it's still limited. But imagine now a code which is containing thousands of files, lakhs of lines of code, and reading between those lines of code in a manual perspective becomes a challenging task. So you need an AI assistant to help you in the debugging task, and none of the development can proceed without debugging. Debugging is a, you can say, part and parcel of the process and needs to be handled very efficiently. And debugging also takes a lot of time if not done in the correct way. So having an AI tool would help you to basically improve this debugging process and cut down developmental times for your products. Then, staying updated with new tools and technologies. Now, in this era where the technologies are evolving in such a rapid manner that within almost an year or two, the tech stack becomes outdated and new changes need to be incorporated so that your product remains still relevant in the market from a technical point of view. So, incorporating these changes, you need the help of AI because the learning curve in new technologies is a bit high. But with the assistance of these AI tools, with the assistance of Copilot Studio, you can basically cut down those learning times and help give more focus to the delivery of the product. Now discussing how Copilot Studio is going to help you. So AI-powered suggestions, as I said, that these suggestions would help you increase the productivity and reduce the development times. Automation or repetitive tasks. Earlier, when the repetitive tasks were just done by humans in a manual manner, they used to eat up a lot of time, which could have been utilized to do meaningful and creative work. So these tasks, since now they have been automated, we can focus on more tasks that actually matters. And real-time problem solving. Copilot Studio basically helps you to identify and solve your problems in real time. As you would be writing code, you would be receiving real-time suggestions, and it's up to you whether you want to accept the solution or not. So this kind of, you can say, a 24/7 available assistant from someone gives you a feel that you are in a pair programming environment where you always have someone to help you out whenever you got stuck here somewhere. So this was how the Copilot Studio is helping developer to navigate through the day-to-day challenges they are facing. And now I'm coming to discuss some key features of Copilot Studio. So AI-powered code suggestions. So AI-powered code suggestions basically help the developer to give a different perspective to their code. Like whenever they would be getting different suggestions, it would be uh, they would be able to incorporate them in their code and basically give a better output. Next, automated testing and debugging. This feature saves time by automating the creation and execution of tests. Like writing tests takes up a lot of time of developers, but testing is also important so as to test the entire scalability and versatility of your product. So with Copilot Studio, you can write automated tests and can just enhance the features of your product. And debugging, as we discussed earlier, can be also handled automatically. The next point is the data analysis. So in this world, as you know, that data holds a huge importance. And with all the relevant data made available to you, making sense out of that data is another complex task. So now Copilot Studio would help you to collect all the important data and also help you make sense out of that data so that you can incorporate these changes accordingly into your final product. So the data analysis part is a very interesting feature of Copilot Studio, as many people spend a lot of time and their resources analyzing the data so as to get some meaningful outcomes out of it. The next part is code documentation and comments. And as you know that the legacy code needs to be transferred from one person to another, so documentation plays a very important role here. As without documentation, your code becomes irrelevant for future users. So Copilot Studio comes here as well to give you some documentation from its end, and makes your code easier to understand and to maintain it on a larger scale. It also helps us to give comments to your code, making each and every line of your code meaningful and explainable. And next comes workflow automation. It can help you streamline the repetitive tasks like code formatting, version control, deployment processes. All these processes go in a synchronized manner. All this workflow is a part whenever you are developing a new feature. And Copilot Studio helps to automate this workflow. This allows developers to focus on the more complex and the creative aspects without worrying about the workflow. So this is how again Copilot Studio helps developers. The next point is API creation and management. So you can you are able to quickly build and test and manage APIs for your applications. And Copilot Studio simplifies the entire process, making it easier for the developers to make robust and scalable APIs. Like API creation is you can say a very common part of development, and having a help from an external AI agent is very beneficial at this point. So these were some key features from Copilot Studio. Let's move on. How is it able to help developers to enhance their productivity? The first point, it reduces boilerplate coding. So as you know, boilerplate is basically a code template which is necessary in every code. So reducing the boilerplate, you can have a ready-made templates from Copilot Studio on which you can work upon, modifying them according to as per your needs. You can focus more time on the exact logic which you are working upon rather than the redundant task of writing the boilerplate code again and again. And then it speeds up debugging. I already discussed it earlier how Copilot Studio is helping to speed up the debugging process and making the delivery of your product more faster. And real-time coding assistance, Copilot Studio would help you give code suggestions in a real time. Like as you are writing code, you would be getting real time suggestions, and you are free to incorporate them in your code or reject them as per your needs. And these coding suggestions helps developers in many ways. Like it might be possible that whatever I am thinking right now might not be the best solution, but since AI has gone through a lot of code bases, it might be able to give you a better solution. So incorporating that thing at a later point of time, uh, instead of incorporating that thing at a later point of time, if you are doing it right now, it is a better approach to save time as well as resources on the development part. Then it supports faster code writing. Since it helps you to reduce the boilerplate coding, already a lot of time has been saved. And also while you are coding, there is something you can say a lot of redundant code which you still need to write. Like I have thought of the logic, I know how to implement it, but still a lot of redundant code needs to be written. But Copilot Studio takes care of that, and it helps you to cut down on those redundant times and focus your most of the time towards building the logic and implementing it. So this is how productivity of the developers is being enhanced with the help of Copilot Studio. Then let's see what is the impact of Copilot Studio on the code quality. And whenever maintaining large code bases, it is essential to assure that the code is clean and easy to maintain, because that code is, is going to be read by a lot of developers, not just one developer. So code quality is an important perspective here. So Copilot Studio ensures that your code is clean and more consistent, because it helps you maintain uniform coding styles across your projects. If your project is having different kind of coding styles, it is a bit harder to maintain. But Copilot has got you covered. It will help you to maintain a single style across all your projects and all your products. And it can suggest syntax and formatting adjustments. So it sometimes it happens a lot that you are writing code and a lot of formatting issues arise. But Copilot Studio doesn't. You can say trouble in that way. It can help you make your code uh, look more pretty and more convenient to understand. It can help you save a lot of time formatting the code manually. Then next comes the bug detection. Since whenever you are writing the code, it's impossible for the project to have exactly zero bugs. So identifying these bugs is another challenge. If the bug is detected in the later part of the development cycle, it is a bit harder to rectify that bug, and it also takes a lot of time. But Copilot Studio helps us to detect these bugs in the early stages of development only. So basically, this is what bug detection helps us. Then some built-in best practices. It basically integrates industry best practices directly into your workflow. So all the practices which are relevant to the industry, they are automatically integrated to your workflow. And this also means that a code only works but adheres to the high standards. Like all the high standards relevant to your code are maintained, and the overall code maintainability and reliability is increased. Now, automated code review suggestions, and it provides real-time feedback on your code. Like as I said, as you are writing code, you can get a real-time feedback on your code and also suggestions how you can make it better. So this also helps to save a lot of manual time. Then optimize performance. Copilot Studio analyzes your code and suggests optimizations to improve performance. So this can lead you to build faster and more applications and focus more on the core part of the application rather than like we say more on the application part and how the optimizations are going to work out. Then refactoring assistance. It suggests a way to refactor your code to make it cleaner and more efficient. Like refactoring manually can be tiring and a time-taking task, but Copilot Studio helps to refactor your code in a faster manner, and it can also involve simplifying the complex code and improving the readability, optimizing the performance. And so yeah, this is how Copilot is helping to refactor the assistance. And one point we skipped of unit test generation. It can automatically generate unit tests for your code and ensure that your code is tested thoroughly and it behaves as expected. So automated unit test generation is basically a very nice feature of Copilot. You can have the unit test generated in an automated manner, thus saving a lot of time again. Then next comes that how Copilot Studio is helping to collaborate and share your knowledge between your teams. So it basically syncs the coding style across teams. Now, let's say you are working on a big project where multiple teams have been allocated different projects and different features to work upon, and every team has its own coding style. So when all the coding styles are compiled together and combined together in a single project, it can be a bit harder to maintain the consistency across all the features. But Copilot Studio helps to maintain a single uniform coding style across the teams, and thus thus making your code more and more maintainable and saving times in future. Then next, it reduces the learning curve for new developers. Now, as a new developer joins your team, let's say, and he or she needs to get familiar with your code base. So, reading the code manually and scanning through the lines, debugging it is a good approach, of course, and it should be followed to get the knowledge of the code. But it is a bit time taking. With the assistance of Copilot Studio, this process can be fastened up a lot, and the learning curve for a new developer can be reduced, so that the new developer who has joined, they would spend less time in understanding the code and more time in implementing and developing it further. And yeah, pair programming with AI. So as I said that while coding with the help of Copilot, it gives you a feel that a pair programmer is present with you, that you are programming simultaneously and with someone who already has knowledge of a code base. Like imagine coding with someone who has entire knowledge of a code base and is able to provide you suggestions wherever you would go wrong. So you can write a code without any worries, without any anxiety, and whatever you are writing, your code will always get better only. So this is how pair programming helps. And best practice templates and all the industry standards which are followed. But all the templates have been made with Copilot Studio, and you can get all these templates which are adhering to the high coding standards and help you to maintain the you can say maintainability and readability of your code. Then mentorship and peer reviews. See, peer reviews is a very important part of development, and as it is possible that a single human can make a mistake, but when a code goes through multiple review cycles, the chances of error are reduced to a larger extent. And since having manual peer reviews is a bit time-taking task, like maintaining the synchronicity between the different teams and the communication between different teams, Copilot Studio helps you to facilitate peer reviews and the mentoring within the team, and it also promotes knowledge sharing and collective learning. So this is how Copilot Studio is helpful. Next is integrated communication. And a built-in communication tool allows for seamless discussions about the code changes, feedback, and the project updates. So these three things, the feedback, project updates, and the code changes need to be communicated to each and every developer which is present in the team, so that all the developers are on the same page and are aware of what all changes are happening in their project. Then discussing some use cases of Copilot in the real world development, the actual use cases for which they are used. So teams use Copilot Studio for quicker release cycles. So let's say you have a feature in a release cycle and you want to fasten up the process. Copilot Studio has got you covered with all the necessary features you need, whether it is debugging your code, whether it is writing a new code, whether it is writing the boilerplate code to reduce the redundant amount of code you are writing, or peer reviews, mentorship, everything has been got covered to ensure a seamless communication within the teams and ensuring the quickest release cycle possible. And next, coming upon to rapid prototyping. And since if you are building prototypes, it may take you a large amount of time to get to the final product, because a lot of prototype iterations need to be done before proceeding towards a final product. But with the help of AI, the time for these prototyping iterations can be reduced to a large extent, helping you to navigate towards the major product in a faster manner. Then legacy code maintenance. Since in many organizations legacy code is being used, like the code which has been written a lot of years ago, and still that code needs to be maintained as entire code base has been written in that. So Copilot Studio would help you navigate towards the challenges faced in legacy code maintenance. It has info about all the code, all the code, how is it working, and how are you able to get the outcome of a certain function, certain variables, everything, every insight you want to know, you can get from Copilot Studio, helping the process of legacy code easier for the developers. Then is the AI-driven analytics. As we discussed earlier, that Copilot Studio is helping you with data analytics as well. So it can extract data about your the relevant data about your code, and I can also make sense out of that data, that what all, you can say, progressions you can make, what all new developmental decisions you can take. So as AI is analyzing the data, you can say that you can get some better insights over that data, and it will reduce the time as well, and makes it easier to identify what you are working on and what needs to be improved. As you would need data analytics at some point of time to actually decide what needs to be improved. The improvement part is different, but first you need to decide what needs to be improved. So that is how the AI-driven analytics are going to help you. And then next comes the cross-platform development. And you can say that you can develop a product once and you can deploy it anywhere. Copilot Studio can support cross-platform development, ensuring that a code can run on various devices and operating systems seamlessly. And we will be seeing this point in future as well. Like since it is a cloud-based solution, you can run your code base on different devices easily. Then comes the security enhancement. It is able to integrate the security best practices into your developmental process. It can automatically check for the vulnerabilities and ensure that your code base has been compiled with the security standards which are laid. So security is not an issue with Copilot. Next is a project documentation. It can auto-generate comprehensive documentation for your projects. And as we all know, that documentation is a very important part of development and is able to, you can say, help the new developers assist with the understanding of the code and maintain and increase your code maintainability. So having a tool which can automatically document your code is a good thing to have, because documentations are good to have, but they are a lot of but they take a lot of time to write. So it takes a lot of time to write a documentation. So Copilot Studio helps us to reduce that time. Okay, so now let's move to the interesting part: how Copilot Studio behaves as compared to the traditional IDEs which we all are using. So Copilot Studio has integrated AI assistants, while you have manual code writing in the traditional IDE. So integrated AI assistants would help you to have a pair programming AI assistant with you, which can help you give real-time feedback and assistance whenever you need. And on the other hand, the manual coding editors, you would have to write all the code manually with no assistance from a virtual agent. And so yeah, that's how Copilot Studio is beneficial. Then seamless integration with GitHub. Copilot Studio can be easily integrated with GitHub, as it can easily maintain all the workflows that is necessary for the developmental cycle. So integration with GitHub is not a challenge here. So version control has been taken care of. Next is a cloud-based. Since Copilot Studio is cloud-based with instant access and consistency compared to local installation with additional IDs. So now what this basically means is, since Copilot Studio is a cloud-based solution, and whenever you are developing your project, and let's say you need a lot of dependencies, so if you're working with Copilot Studio, you need to install them once, and you can work on various machines having those dependencies with you all the time, and you need to set up your project only once. But if you are doing with a traditional IDE, let's say the project is working on my device, but it may be possible if I take the same project to my friend's device, it may not work properly, or it would take a lot of time from my side to set it up there. So a cloud-based solution helps us save time in this way. As like say, as I'm traveling, I don't have my machine, I can still use a remote machine to log in into my Copilot Studio and continue my development there without wasting even a single minute on setting up the project. Next is resource scalability as per the project needs. And as Copilot Studio is able to navigate between the resources, like since it's a cloud-based solution, you can manually set the how much amount of CPU, how much amount of memory you are using for a project. So let's say if I'm at the initial stages of my project, I need less computation power, so I can set the usage to low. And as my project scales, like more and more files and more lines of code, and more computation power is needed, I can adjust those needs accordingly. So the resources are being used in a very wise manner compared to traditional IDs, where you do not get such amount of flexibility. You are not able to basically flexibly set up how much amount of memory usage and CPU power you are going to use. It's mostly it is fixed compared to having a flexible solution with Copilot Studio. Then next comes accessible anywhere with and device agnostic. So yeah, as I said that it's since being a cloud-based solution, you can access your code anywhere, whether you are traveling or whether you don't have your machine or not. It's not an issue now. And device agnostic means it is independent of the device on which you are running. Let's say you have a low power device which does not support the development and environment tools, but you can still access Copilot Studio because computation power required would not be of the machine which you are using. It would be provided from the side of Copilot. So this helps you to basically manage resources in an efficient manner, and also gives you more flexibility over the limitations of hardware. The hardware is not a limitation anymore, since the development is moving towards a device agnostic development. Now let us discuss some scopes for the future of the Copilot Studio. So on with the future of Copilot Studio, we can expect some more automation capabilities and enhanced AI for complex problem solving. So this is how the future of Copilot Studio we can see. Then next comes AI in software development, evolving role of AI in future projects. So AI's influence on development is only growing, and it's becoming integral to every part of the progress, from coding to testing to development, deployment, ensuring higher efficiency and quality. Then next comes advanced debugging and issue resolution. Copilot Studio is already doing great in debugging, but we can have some advanced debugging features in the near future, which can even save uh, the time which are used to resolve the complex issues which arise in debugging. Where still some manual intervention is needed in the debugging process, but in the future we can work upon towards you can say fully automating it, as from reducing the manual effort and increasing the automation effort. So yeah, in an AI-driven bug detection as well as bug resolution, this is what we can look for in the future of Copilot Studio. So now concluding the entire presentation, Copilot Studio improves the productivity and the code quality. It is important for the developer growth and teamwork. It increases the flexibility in devices and the hardware used. Being a cloud-based solution, now flexibility amongst the hardware um, is a better thing you can say, because now hardware is no longer a limitation. It will help you to automate a lot of manual work. A lot of manual work has been automated already by Copilot Studio, and making you able to focus more on the code logic of your product. And it makes easy to handle large code bases. The large code bases with thousands and lakhs of lines of code can be easily managed with Copilot Studio, and making your manual work even less.